Hi, how are you? It's good afternoon this time around for the agent tip of the day. This is Joshua Youngs, the Medicare Machine with Medicare Peace of Mind and the Medicare Machine Factory. We're going to be churning out some Medicare machines very soon. Hope you're one of those. Hope you're one of those. So today's agent tip of the day, we're going to talk about fact finding. I'm going to break it down for you and go a little bit nitty gritty, more than just a hype, more than just a little video. I'm actually going to give you a short training on how and why fact finding is so important. If you do it correctly and you do it with the right methodology and you have the right intentions in mind and you word your questions correctly, you will really position to be the first person to get through the race, which to me, once you have fact finding done and you have an appointment made, you have those two things done, that person's not going to work with somebody else. So that's the goal and the mission. Get to them first, get the fact finding done. But there are right ways to do fact finding, there's wrong ways to do fact finding. And there are certain topics and areas you do not explore unless you know it's going to be applicable. So check this out. I have some good news for you. We're going to go right into it. Here you go. All right, so let's talk about fact finding. Let's talk about the different categories. So first you have what I call the demo section or the demographics. Okay, so we have the demographic section, and in the demographic section, let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit for you. A little easier to see. So we got the demographic section. Under that, you're going to have the basic stuff like name. You're going to have date of birth. You're going to have gender. You're going to have tobacco user. You're going to have address. You're going to have email. You're going to have marital status. Okay? And that's in the demographic category. The who, what, why, when, where, how, of who they are is what you need to get first. And after you do that, you want to work on the next category, which is what I call hinge point questions. And so the first hinge point question is, rather than write it all out, I'm just going to do a shortened version. You want to do Medicaid. Do you have Medicaid? Question mark. Do you have Medicaid? So that's the first, what I call hinge question. And the hinge question, the reason I call it that, is it really hinges the decision of Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement to one side or the other very quickly. If somebody has Medicaid, typically that's going to be more appropriate for a Medicare Advantage or original Medicare by itself. It's typically not going to be a situation where you're looking at Medicare Supplement, almost always. So that's an example of a hinge question. Same thing, LIS or extra help. You want to know that question? Okay, those are the hinge questions. Another potential hinge question is Part A and B effective dates. And the reason I call those hinge questions is there are times when someone has already burned through their trial right because they've already got Part A too long ago, and there's too long of a date gap between when they got Part A and Part B, and so the trial right would not be in effect in that situation potentially. And so we have A and B dates, those things, and then we have what I call the balance. So you have people that want to figure out a cost and value and benefit combination. You want to have a combination of those things that creates what makes the client comfortable, what makes them feel good and sleep at night with a smile on their face because they know they're covered in all the right areas. And so the first thing you want to do is go over RX and figure out if they're having expensive medications, that kind of thing, how often they're getting filled. Right along with that, I would also add pharmacy. It's really important to understand which pharmacy they're currently using, and then are they open to change. And so these are ones that you don't change typically, unless someone doesn't qualify for Medicaid and they didn't know it and now you're helping them. But for the RX and pharmacy, what I want to find out is, are they open? And this is what I would call are you open category. And so RX, okay, both RX and pharmacy. We have PCP in this category. We have specialist in this category. We have hospital preference in this category. We have OTC, so they're taking anything over the counter currently. Do they wear glasses? or contacts? Okay, and do they have hearing aids or do they need hearing aids? And that's exactly how you want to word that. Do you have or do you need hearing aids? Because one of those two will usually get it. Do they use chiro or acupuncture? Okay. And then the last one I call is what I call the network category. And some of these would cross over into both, and I'll show you why. So a couple of these that I would do on both is I would look at RX, I would look at PCP, I would look at specialists. So that's going to be in both categories, but you only want it once on your list. I just want you to see that goes to both categories. So you have those three things, and then in the network side of it too, you have travel habits. And then there's a difference between traveling and vacationing. So make sure you ask for that differentiator. Like people travel different places, like if they're a snowbird, which includes having a second home, which ties into the travel usually. So if someone's a snow and they go back and forth from one area to another, then you want to make sure there's duality in where their coverage works and functions. If they're just vacationers and they go somewhere 1 or 2 weeks at a time, whether it's a couple of times or several times a year, that's vacationing. And typically people aren't looking for a non-emergent coverage while they're on vacation. However, they do want emergent and non-emergent coverage typically when they're traveling, which is for longer periods of time, maybe for multiple destinations. Maybe you're touring Europe. Maybe you spend 6 months in Cabo and 6 months in your house in Chicago or whatever it is, and that combination of things. And so you want to have these categories, and I would add and subtract other categories. This is the basics for the Medicare fact-finding side of things. You should also create a four-quadrant list of the different things that go into, and this fourth category would obviously be different than network on the life insurance layout, and you're doing a fact finder for life insurance. Make sure you go through and think of all the key elements. And if you don't know what all the key elements should be, stay tuned. I'm going to do more fact finding opportunities for other products, but focusing on Medicare today, I'm circling in on these. And so I start with the basics, and usually in the demographic category, you're going to typically know a lot of this information up front. If they sent back a lead card, you got a referral or something. So usually you'll have like name, maybe you'll have date of birth or maybe not. You'll have address, email, phone is on there, and it should be on there. It's not on there. You should also have phone in that avenue. But you want to go through the basic. It's a lot like building up rapport and trust and credibility in any conversation, especially something like a lie detector test. First, they go through some basic information and get you used to answering questions, and then the questions get more and more difficult as you go. You don't throw the most difficult question out up front. Okay? And so you go through name, date of birth, tobacco use, and again, what I want to try to do is I want to make them laugh or be flattered at every opportunity I have a chance to do that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, look, you don't sound like a tobacco user, or look, you do not look like a tobacco user. Even if they clearly do sound or clearly do look like a tobacco user, always try to flatter them with the other side. And then go through email address. Do you have one, and do you use it? That's kind of the follow-up question. And then marital status. If someone says single, this is how you follow up to single. You say single, single, widowed single, or divorced single. And you put that in that position. So you want to go through marital status. Then you get to the Medicaid question, because that'll hinge the thing right away. And we know we're going Medicare Advantage, Med Sup, same thing as LIS, Extra Help. And same thing, if they've already got Medicare, you got to get their Medicare number and their effective dates and tell them what you need it for. You're going to see what levels they're eligible for, see if there's any extra programs they can qualify for. Give them the reasons you need the information first, and then ask the questions. And you want to be able to weave the conversation with fact-finding and getting to know them chit-chat. So weave back and forth from your name, and do you have any grandkids? And then go back to, are you a tobacco user? And then go back and keep weaving back and forth between get to know you chit-chat and actual fact-finding chit-chat. And what you'll find is you can create a trust-building process with just the fact-finding. Okay? So you want to create a list like this and then add to and subtract. This is just the basics of it, you guys. And ladies and gentlemen, I should say. What you want to really do is put yourself in a position of what information can I use up front so I can help someone make the best decision possible. If I was helping my mom, if I was helping my dad, if I was helping my grandma, my grandpa, somebody really important to me in my life, What are the extra steps? What are the extra questions I would ask them to get to know them about their situation better, to make sure I consider every possible angle that you need. So you see, it's simple. What you really want to do is create a scenario where fact-finding becomes the trust-building activity. And if you can get through the fact-finding process, and again, getting through this first quadrant's easier, but once you get through here, the rest should be really easy, and you transition. The way you transition from the purple to the orange is you basically tell them why you need to know. Say, look, people that already have Medicaid, the line changes when you're qualifying for Medicare and you're turning 65. On the income level you can have to qualify for Medicaid. It's different when you're under 65 than it is over 65. Educate first, give them information, tell them the source, and then simplify things and say, look, do you qualify for Medicaid? And make the simple question at the end. But first, when you get into these difficult orange questions, you really want to educate, inform, and simplify the process. So you want to tell them, you're going to ask them, you want to explain what you're going to do with the information, and then you want to ask them in a very black and white, easy to answer methodology. You want to leave them opportunity to fill in blanks and give you information. So don't shut them down if they go off on a tangent when it comes to fact finding. Just make sure you reel them back in and get them back on to the questions that you need at hand. But the more you let them talk, and the more they're talking, and the earlier it is in the relationship that you have with your potential client, the stronger the trust bubble is building, and you don't want to let it pop. You want it to formulate. Think of it like wet concrete. It's wet at first. It could be undone. They could just wash it away with a hose. But you want to really do is get in position where that concrete sets. And if you have all this information from somebody, they're typically not going to want to go back to the drawing board, redo the whole process with somebody else. And if you're able to get through the fact-finding process, to me, that's the first test of the level of trust that the person you're talking to has with you. So don't go into fact-finding too quickly, and also don't not go into it quick enough. You want to have the Goldilocks thing here, and you got to fill it out. And you fill it out by just going through the purple section. If they let you go completely through the purple section with no pushback, no nothing, you just keep answering the questions, and they don't say something like, hey, I'm busy, or I don't have time for this, or anything like that, then keep going and get the entire fact-finding process completed. There you have it. There's today's agent tip of the day. Hope you were taking notes. Pardon the pun, but don't worry, you'll be able to replay this a few times if you need to. If you don't have a good fact finder put together already, just use the ingredients I just gave you. Create a sheet that has those line by line. Make sure you get them answered. That's all. That's the magic to it. You don't need a fancy one. You don't need a pretty one. You just need a piece of paper that reminds you not to skip or miss things, and in what order you ask the questions does have an impact on how effective the process is. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. I'm going to keep dropping more and more hot heat for those in the industry to grow on your own. All you got to do is take these nuggets and apply them to your business. I promise they'll work. Have a great day.